Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for March 3rd, 2023. I'm Benji Fisher moderating, and also here are Ralph Kohler, who is sharing his screen, Mike Gifford, and Simo Helston. Go ahead, Ralph.
Okay, the issue number is 3318112. Move block layout from structure to appearance. It's the last issue about moving different parts of what was previously under structure and block layout to different parts of the admin interface. So far, we had moved the custom block layout, which was previously under block layout under structure. Then the custom block library got moved as a tab, the content. And the last part we are talking today on.
Why not go to custom block types just for the sake of the recording? And
okay.
I don't know if Mike has been keeping up with this. Custom block types is now directly under structure.
I did not notice that until just now.
It's new. Coming in 10.1.
It's also a bit confusing because one of the last issues in that meta issue for moving everything is for admin toolbar, and those menu links in admin toolbar aren't created dynamically, and therefore it's a bit of a mess right now and a bit difficult. As you can see under content, there is no block menu point, and yeah, you have block types one time under block layout and one time in custom block types, and block layout is still there. And plan is to move block layout, which is that page, to appearance. And there come in.
I see that Offer Shaw has joined us, and also the site I set up is just Drupal core, so it doesn't have the admin toolbar installed. And if you look at the menu in vertical mode, maybe that'll be clearer, but go ahead.
And I'll now switch to the mockups Lee has created. He has two approaches. The first approach is one that was initially thought about. Basically, it's a bit. You have currently it's called list. In that mockup, it's renamed to themes. Then you have the tab update, block layout, and settings. And under block layout, it's also wrong. The block layout, you just have the same what you have under structure and block layout currently, meaning a secondary tab with navigational tab with, in that case, Umami and Claro. And you have the global or default settings tab, and there again, global settings and Claro and Umami, the themes installed. And about a week ago, Aaron had an idea for the second approach. That is basically reduce the number of tabs. You just have themes, update, and global settings. And within themes, you would have, as currently, the cards like Olivero, Claro, the installed themes, and you would have a button to go to the settings. And within those settings, you have, if you go into your Umami, you have a tab for layout, which would have the block layout specific to that theme and the settings specific to that theme. And the global settings would be under that main tab. That is the basic gist, meaning in approach 1, everything is grouped by the task. And in approach 2, everything is grouped by the theme. That's generally it. And I could quickly provide the reactions and feedback I've got from the lean coffee table of the Drupal meetup in Munich last Tuesday, and yesterday night I've also briefly asked the Drupal dojo in Austin, Texas for feedback. But in particular, the feedback from the Munich group was pretty good because it's spun out one idea that might be pretty interesting to follow from my perspective.
Okay, let me
Yep.
interrupt for a minute. And are there any questions? Any questions about the scope? And there are really two separate options we're presenting here, right?
Yep.
Just one note that would be useful is that whenever there's a dramatic change in the user interface like this, it would be useful if there was some hint about where the new elements are, or some some indication that there's a change. And we don't necessarily need to keep that forever, but certainly when this rolls out, to make it clear, like, people are going to be looking for where the blocks are, and how do we try and make sure that they know where the new elements are and what to look for? How do we highlight that in a way that is distinct from it? So this shouldn't be something that causes people stress when we roll this out. But I think that it will, because people have been looking for blocks in the same place for a millennia, more or less. And I think it's useful to try and let people to give people a clue that things are in a different place.
Mike,
Right.
I love this comment. I'm thinking in my head that we should create something in core. It's probably out of this scope, but just in general, something that help users knowing, oh, the last version you connected to was 9.4. There's a tracking of what happened using Tour or something like that. Now you're in 10.1, and it gives you a quick rundown of here's what changed since the last time you logged in. And then people would have a clear understanding of what changed, because I think it's expected nowadays of software to tell us what's new.
So we have release notes, but of course, only release managers read release notes. So
Right.
yes, it would be good to have something in the website that helps us. Ralph, go ahead.
Yeah, in regards of over suggestion, that might be something for the dashboard. The people working on that, that you basically, as a user, get a notification there is a new version of Drupal. You're logged in now, as for example, if you are not an administrator, or if you're not a high-level user role, then it might be helpful to get a notification there's a new version, and get a list of changes, or even for a few cases then a link to a tour, as over suggested, to walk the person through.
Is it possible to go and I mean, I don't want to derail the current thread, and I think I have, but it would be useful if we could agree to capture this idea or search to see if there's already an existing concept around this. I think there's a few different ways we could deal with it, but I'd love to get back to the two ideas that are being proposed for how blocks are going to be arranged in the future.
Yeah, one thing we have already done is that if people have bookmarks or links to the existing admin pages, we redirect them to the new ones with a message. But if they're just used to going to the administration menu and the link they're used to seeing isn't there, it's a good question of how we can help them find. Those of us who have been thinking about it for a while think that the new structure is just so natural that people will find it when they look for it. People have been looking for these links in these places, and they weren't there for years. Many site builders actually override the usual menu structure. But certainly there will be a lot of people who are used to the old way. Anything we can to help them is good. So Ralph, do you want to go on with the feedback you've already gotten?
Yes, I could. Okay. That's the feedback from the group in Munich at first. The initial impression people had and the initial reactions at first about approach 1, somehow it's more familiar and more intuitive. Most folks were drawn to that approach at first. And one detail that was noted as an advantage, it is just about an edge case, but might be viable in case you have 2 front-end themes with the identical setup of regions. That way you're able to click between those 2 and compare the setup of blocks. Might make it more comprehensible, but that is really just an edge case, and I just wanted to note. And in regards of approach 2, I'm not sure if it's phrased or translated correctly in English, but the initial reaction of some person was something like, there's something rising up in me, something a dislike. I'm not sure if it's the correct saying in English. But after a while and a bit of a discussion, approach 2 started to sink in. At first, those antipathy was probably caused by laziness and the advantage of the minimal change that comes along with approach 1. But many site builders, and one of the positive things after thinking about it a bit, many site builders, one noted, aren't aware that some blocks only function in certain themes, and blocks may differ between themes. And semantically, it's that approach 2 is more logical, and the path in the breadcrumbs is way more straightforward. Basically, you have administration, appearance, umami, and then layout or settings, and that way it's better grouped. And another advantage for people new to Drupal, it's probably way more easy to understand and to comprehend. And so the vote shifted from everyone as a thumbs up for approach 1 to mainly everyone to approach 2. Only one person is still a bit hesitant in regards of approach 2, but he said he would be okay with approach 2. It's also probably according to his laziness and dislike of change, sort of, and to having to learn after 10, 15 years something new again, what he was used to. And that's also a point that probably is the most problematic from everyone's point of view, is the muscle memory for people using Drupal for 10, 15 years. And if that location now changes and the approach in that particular there might be problematic. But overall is okay. And one point they pointed out is, since block layout is, or blocks in general, is the task people mostly deal with, and theme settings is something you usually don't deal that often, it would be important that the block layout page inside a theme card is reached easily, meaning should be clearly communicated by the button on the theme card, as well as should be easily reached via admin toolbar. But without admin toolbar installed, it might be a bit cumbersome to reach. And one detail as a last point, one of the attendees, Jürgen, brought up one point. There's also an issue or about the problem itself. It's issue number, where is my, he suggested adding a third tab about regions, rename that layout to something like regions and add a new tab and call it more or less layouts. Basically, that you have a page of all the layout builder layouts that were created. It's an issue number 3325039. Improve the overview of the list of available content types with a layout and layout overrides for its nodes. Currently, you have to go right into a content type, see if a content type has layout builder active, and then go in there and see a layout. And also, if layout overrides are active, you have to find basically each node that has a layout override. And there's no way, in particular, if you're coming new to a complex site, to easily get an overview of the list of available layouts. And that might be a way. There's no clear thought went into that, how that page should be structured and what functionality should be available, but the general problem that could be solved there might be worth a thought. And they also noted something like, also I guess on the weekends, it was also brought up to move display modes from structure also to those themes, and appearance might be also worse for another tab, maybe. And Austin, Texas, people were not that vocal and also easily distracted yesterday. The only feedback they gave, neither one jumps out as the best option. Approach 2 is a bit more obscure, but maybe if they would put a bit more time into the presented details, it might be the same change in mind like the Munich group had. Yeah, that's it from my end now.
I like actually the option 2 from because it kind of follows more of the same logic we have under like with the content types. So we have content types and we click open a content type, and then we have the tabs for doing different things. So I think it's kind of having this stuff like under the theme hierarchy makes it kind of easier to kind of navigate if you're used to navigating the content types and other things like that, or entities. So it's kind of, then there is a similarity there. It also kind of reduces one, I don't know how many people have it, but I sometimes have had that like working tired and like setting different kind of blocks and wondering why doesn't it show up, and then notice, oh, I was on the wrong tab. So it kind of reduces, I think, the risk of editing the wrong tab for layouts, because they all look the same. So it's kind of sometimes you end up changing the layout for administrative theme when you want to front end or the other way around. So it's kind of would kind of make it more distinguishable there. But I don't know if that's a common problem or if it's just me. But it would kind of make it more similar to managing entities.
So like when managing nodes, you have various display modes. and each one can have a separate set of fields that it displays. And so you're saying that this sort of navigation within each theme, you have a block layout is consistent with that.
Yeah, I think so.
My only feedback on this is that in general, the industry seems to be moving towards user-generated tasks. So what is the user trying to do, as opposed to what is the system trying to go off and what makes sense for the system versus what makes sense for the user are often different things. And if you default to the user, you're probably going to have a better experience. And that we also have to be thinking ahead about what those changes are. And Rolf, you highlighted some really interesting ideas about where we might need to be going. And if we make a solution that makes future changes more difficult, that might be a problem. So those are my only thoughts.
Yeah, so one drawback to the second proposal is that it's an extra click or maybe even an extra 2 clicks to get to the block layout page or the layout page for the main theme. So currently it's right there at the top of the structure menu. You go to block layouts. So in the new approach, you can have 1 click to go to appearance, and then maybe a little bit of scrolling to get to, I guess, the main theme will be at the top of the list, so maybe you don't have to scroll, and then there's a click there for block layout. I noticed that if I put the, actually, why don't I ask Ralph, can you go to the copy of the site that I linked to that does not have the admin toolbar installed? And it's admin, of course.
Following Drupal security best practices.
Well, I am on the security team, so and make the admin menu go in vertical mode. Far right.
I was thinking you mean in. I was thinking of Chin. Sorry. Yeah.
So now if you expand appearance, so it's still an extra click, but it's not a page load to expand that. And then you have layout, and that I assume goes to the layout for the main theme.
You already applied. Okay.
Well, that's funny. The breadcrumbs will take you back to appearance, I guess.
No, it's basically just the present page isn't shown, or at least not shown in most of the times in the breadcrumb. I mean, it's just the parent page appearance, layout, and layout is just missing in the breadcrumb, I suppose. Yeah.
But sorry, if you go to appearance there, if you in the breadcrumb, if you go to appearance, you should be able to see the link to layout there. If it's a child page.
So it's not a local task or a sub tab. The link is block layout near the far right, about 2/3 of the way down the page. So near the bottom of the card for umami.
Are there? Oh,
Oh, I see. And that page from the admin menu is actually a separate page. I think Lee was just doing some experimentation. Yeah, so I think this proposal needs some refinement. I want to make sure that the breadcrumbs are useful. And of course, by default, breadcrumbs are tied to the path structure.
but basically, or ideally, if you go to, you don't have. Yeah, if you have admin toolbar installed, then it would be, if it behaves the same way, like for example, content types, if you have article that you have for appearance the same, for example, umami, then you have block layout, and that way it would you get all the tabs inside the theme card. It would be, I think, acceptable in combination with having a block layout button, or however it will be called on the card itself.
Okay, so I have a radical suggestion, because why not? What we're discussing is pretty radical. How useful is this list page? Why not have the appearance page have a tab for each enabled theme? By default, you have the main front end theme. And then each one of these will have sub tabs, and maybe the default should be block layout. What else might the default be? Settings? Not really. So
Mostly people are going to want to go there in order to modify the positioning of the blocks, right?
that's what I'm thinking. So clicking on appearance would take you directly to the layout, the block layout, for the primary theme. And then and that would be a second level tab. So the first level tab identifies which theme it is, and the second level tab identifies what you're doing with the theme. So the second level tabs would be layout, settings, and preview. I don't know what information is in the card that we want to keep. A screenshot. Needs that idea clearly needs some fleshing out. I don't know. Does this seem like a terrible idea? Something worth thinking about?
I'm thinking about how much of what we see here on the appearance page at the moment, how much of it would make sense to have when we have the project browser in core, if we get it. So this kind of reminds me of that kind of approach, where you have those installing modules. So and it could have also themes there somehow. Well, it's a might be a long way to get there, but and we also have other issues where we are like about redesigning the appearance page.
Is that what you're looking at now, Ralph?
Yep.
For the sake of the
It's the
recording.
Meta issue number 2860419. Appearance page is too long and confusing. And there is-
Well, my suggestion fixes that. Get rid of that page. Oh, one thing I would have to figure out is one option on this page is to select the default themes. There's a little link with the check mark icon.
but
And
as well as the admin theme is also there on that page. The field setups. The field set at the bottom is also there.
yeah, and well, maybe those two settings, front-end theme and back-end theme or administration theme, maybe those should be moved to like the global settings page or something, which would be a separate tab. So, you know, for Umami, we'd have a tab for the Umami front-end theme, a tab for Claro, and then a settings tab. And the settings tab can the settings tab could choose which is the front-end theme and which is the back-end theme. I guess really the important thing that this page gives us is a list of the uninstalled themes. And we would not want a tab for each one of the uninstalled themes.
Couldn't those go into a global settings section? Because that's really about, I mean, the uninstalled themes are really more about settings than you want to enable them, perhaps. Would that work?
Yeah, so sort of keep this page, but make it the last tab on the appearance page rather than the first one. And people go over there when they need to enable a new theme.
Yeah, that could work. Yeah. Because most of the time they're going to be editing the default list of blocks, right? That they're there to go off and manage what is or manage the default themes. They're not going to be trying to manage all the other themes. So take a click away.
Yeah, and when you're building a site from scratch, you know, sort of the first thing you're going to do is install the theme you're going to use and enable it. So that's the first thing. So that has some importance being first, but then you'll never go back there again because it's already done. And you don't need that page to be there all the time. And as you continue building the site, the page you're going to come back to much more often is the block layout. I'm beginning to like this idea. So we do need to keep the current appearance page as a list of available themes that we could install. and as a way for choosing which of the enabled themes is primary and which is used for administration. And I would move those two options to the top. So select list from the available themes. Which one you want to be primary. Second select list, which of the available themes do you want to be the administration theme, and then all the available but uninstalled themes.
What do others think about that?
Or possibly even have those on two separate tabs. As Aaron likes to point out, it's a bad idea to have a form that does too many things. So we'd have one page that lets us enable or disable themes, and a second page that lets us choose from the enabled themes which ones we want to use, which two we want to use.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead,
think
Rob.
I'd go with putting the selection to global settings and enabling and disabling and installing it. That could be a separate tab, but I think we could have those admin theme selection in global settings.
But just one question for my understanding. For the example here in the screenshot, you have Olivero, Chin, Bartik 7, and Claro installed. And with the suggested approach from you, Benji, you would have one tab for Olivero, one for Chin, one for Bartik, one for 7, and one for Claro, and then one global setting tab at the moment. Is it correct?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay.
What if somebody has a whole bunch of like, if somebody were say enabling 20 different themes for different use cases, would that, how would an extreme implementation affect this design?
Yeah, so if you have 20 different themes, then my suggestion gets pretty cumbersome. That's a lot of tabs.
Maybe just don't have 20 different themes, but
Yeah, but what is the case if you're if a parent theme and a child, a sub theme of that, and another sub theme of that, and
Although now that I'm looking at Ralph's screen, I think this is suggesting a pretty good option rather than having sort of a separate form to choose which is the primary theme, which is the admin theme, have immediate action links on each of the cards. So if something is not the primary theme, then have a link or a button on the card that will make it so. So I also wonder, what are the chances that we get that issue, the issue about redesigning the list of themes? What are the chances that we'll get that into 10.1? I haven't been following the issue, but my guess is that it's not all that likely.
Not at all.
Okay.
I suppose you mean the complete appearance meta?
I'm not sure what complete means, but you know, the part that you were looking at a minute ago looks kind of nice.
Yeah, but it entails a few details that are more problematic. And
I'm sure.
And if you combine it with the new approach here, it feels a bit rushed. And I think putting a bit more thought into it and that it plays along nicely might be reasonable. And maybe I guess Lee Rowland is how he put it, the small steps, and maybe approaching it that way by just like it's in your example, add a block layout button and provide it that way, and then give a deeper thought about the appearance page and restructuring that in the next iteration in 10.2.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, that it might be a good idea to make a small step for 10.1. It's already pretty big, but get people used to the idea that block layout is now underneath the appearance part of the admin menu, not under structure. And then have a major reorganization of the navigation under appearance go into 10.2 or 10.3 when whatever we can get.
Yeah. I think by providing just a button on the card and providing a proper structure, a proper integration with admin toolbar from an accessibility point of view, I mean, not in the accessibility way, I mean, to access the menu item, I think might be enough. And also would cover Simo's point about accidentally being on the wrong tab, because that way you're sure you are, for example, in Olivero and are editing the block layout of Olivero.
Okay. Well, one of the things I'll put on my to-do list for next week is to come up with a slide deck presenting some of these options. And I think we started the reorganization of the block management menu items. We started that with trying to build some consensus in the community, and we did get a lot of positive feedback. I think we need a similar effort for this rearrangement of appearance, and I think that we should not be targeting 10.1 for this. So So let's think in terms of making, putting the block layout or the layout pages under appearance as we've been planning to do for a while now. Let's complete that. And let's think about what the final status is going to be, and if possible, minimize the number of times we'll be changing a particular page. But I think the primary goal should be something stable and usable for 10.1 and adequate time to think about these more recent proposals of rearranging the navigation for appearance. So there's a lot of unexciting work coming up, like listing out what the path structure and menu structure will be for each of the proposals, and how we're going to get there. And then there's some, a lot of design work to be done for redesigning the appearance page.
And I added a draft, well, I added an issue looking at ways to, the issue of updating the users about the flow of the navigation. So I tried to capture the points that we had discussed there. Feel free to issue the description, or to edit the description to highlight some of the other things or to clarify it. I think I got it correct, but please edit it.
Thank you. Yeah, just off the top of my head, one, this is issue that Mike just created, 3345826. Updates and navigation should come with notifications for users. But one idea that just came off the top of my head is to create a link in the administration menu, label it block layout, so it looks just like what we currently have, but it will go to a new sort of temporary page that just says, this page has moved, and here's the link to the new page, and here's how you find it in the navigation menu, and click here if you want this page to go away.
Providing some sort of temporary interface like that to guide people, I think, is it's a useful, that might be a useful sort of pattern to look at. But yeah.
But first idea is not always the best idea.
No.
But someone has to go first. Otherwise, we won't have the better ideas.
Yeah. It's also, I was thinking that we do know when the user has logged in last time, but we probably don't have anywhere stored the information about when some feature was introduced in the system. So we know when certain version was released, but we don't know when it was installed to a site or when the update was done. But if we would have that kind of information, we could compare it to when the user has logged in and then show a notification on the first login after that. So we could do something like that, but I don't think we have enough information about when the features were or when the updates were installed to a specific site.
Right, Ralph is giving a thumbs up to that.
I would worry less about when the user last logged in versus when were the last, like if we can assume that they're applying security updates on a regular basis, that we provide notices of, like, for the last 2 updates, we provide that the notice, but we don't, after the 2 updates it disappears or something like that. We have some sort of time frame where we define new, and otherwise we should be having to track changes for all of the help, all of the releases in the help documentation. We should see something that says this changed in this release, this changed in this release, this changed in this release, that so that anyone can access that. Ralph?
In regards of when a site was updated in the context of automatic updates, then the date must be known in the future, I suppose.
So I guess this seems to me like a situation where we're thinking hard about where we track the information so that we can figure things out for the user. And that just seems to me like the sort of situation where you should leave it up to the user rather than work hard to try to figure it out for them. I guess that was point of view I was expressing last week, talking about the sending emails from the bulk listing of users.
I was also thinking from the perspective of somebody that is engaging with multiple Drupal sites who, if we do it on a site-specific basis, like they're going to learn the first time that the block menus are changing, and they're going to have to go through, and for every site that they engage with, they're going to have to say, oh yeah, I already knew this, and disable that.
Okay, we still have 5 minutes left. We are not obligated to run out the clock. Any further ideas? Okay, well, thank you all. It was a fun discussion.
Thanks, Benji.
And it'll be exciting when it actually happens, but I think these further changes are going to be further down the road. But we'll see. I'm not always right. Maybe they'll get in by 10.1. If Lee Rollins is pushing forward, it just might happen.
Exactly.
Okay, take care.
Thanks. Bye.